cool beans. Well, again, thank you all for being here. I was hearing some people come in and say, I heard when we were talking about it, what is this talk going to be about? What's chief? What is that? I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to try and raise down. If I can ask you to, only because I kind of need this raceway. I didn't know there were going to be people on this side, so I'm going to try to run around in these shoes as much as I can to address everybody. So I first did this talk at World Workplace, as Rafi had said last year. But I've just been so excited because even though I did this at World Workplace last year, the feedback that I continue to get on this topic is incredible. I still have workplace professionals coming to me and talking to me about this topic, and it's crazy because chief workplace officers don't even exist everywhere. So the fact that people are talking about this tells me that it kind of really resonates. I think we're all ready to be heard at the table. So I'm really excited about this. But before I get into this, I would like to get an idea of who is in this room. So can you raise your hands, please, if you are a facility manager? Who are my facility managers in here? Raise your hands. Awesome, love it. Okay, where are my real estate folks? Real estate folks. Any other real? Okay, all right, there you go. Cool beans. Do I have safety and security people in here? Safety, okay, safety and security. We got, all right, there you go, enough. How about, let's see, construction people or project management? Construction or construction project? Wow, okay, there's a lot of you guys. Awesome, cool beans. Okay, how about this? How many of you facility managers also do safety and security and project management and maybe all this other stuff, workplace services? Anyone? Yeah, there's a lot of us, huh? Cool. All right, last two questions. How many of you have in your office or your company today a chief workplace officer? Somebody with the title chief workplace officer. Anyone? Anyone? We got somebody? I love it! All right, okay, cool beans. We gotta get more. Now, how many of you would like to one day become a chief workplace officer? All right, well, it's a tricky question. I know. Tough crowd. But it is a tricky question because chief workplace officers don't even exist everywhere yet today. So it's hard to aspire for something. But that doesn't mean that it shouldn't, especially today. I mean, the topic of workplace is everywhere. Okay, fine. 6 years ago, 10 years ago, nobody knew what workplace was. Okay, fine. But now, workplace is everywhere. We have podcasts on workplace. We're on news articles, we're in TV, radios, we're the popular kids. So I'm not deterred by the fact that there's still no chief workplace officer everywhere, and neither should you. In fact, perhaps it's time that we start paving the way towards the role of a chief workplace officer. After all, these are unprecedented times, and the need for an extraordinary leader in our industry is growing louder. Let's talk about why. Decisions on hybrid are already being made everywhere. Regardless of what side of the fence you're on, whether flexibility of choice or to be fully in the office, the fact is that company leaders around the world are already acknowledging that they need to make some type of decision on their hybrid work environments. Some companies that may be more people-centered may be making their decisions based on employee engagement and the desire to attract new talent. Some companies that may be more finance-centered may be making their decisions based on their real estate portfolio investments. But regardless of what the decisions are, and regardless of what the hybrid environment looks like, two important facts remain true. The need for an office or a company workplace is not going anywhere. And two, in order to be successful, hybrid strategies need to include the transformation of a workplace. Let's start with the first one first. The need for an office or company workplace is not going anywhere. Now, multiple sources of data already show this to be true. Let's take a look at a couple of the more recent ones, or the more relevant ones. This is from the Work From Home research. Now, many of you are familiar with this research. This is the one that's by Nick Bloom of Stanford University. What this research does, the work from home research, is it looks at the behaviors of workers in this hybrid environment, in particular, whether they're working from home or they're working in their office or their company workplace. I have to stay away from there, sorry, otherwise it ticks. And what we find as of March this year, nearly 60% of workers today in the United States are working in the office or the company workplace full-time, 5 days a week. Many of you maybe can relate to this, I don't know. And when you consider those that are working hybrid, that's nearly 90% of workers in the United States today that are working in their office or their company workplace at least some of the time. And when I say some of the time, I'm not referring to some insignificant figure like maybe a day or two in a month. The same data shows that the average number of days that workers who can work hybrid are working from home is 2.2 days per week. That means that the majority of number of days in their week, workers are working in the office or the company workplace. Now that's what workers are doing. What about companies? What are companies requiring workers to do? This is from the US Flex Index. Now what the US Flex Index by Scoop Technologies does is it looks at all of the different hybrid policies of companies all across America. And what we find as of Q1 this year, 1/3 of companies in America today have a policy requiring workers to be working in the office full-time. And when you combine that with those that have some type of hybrid strategy, that's nearly 70% of that's nearly 70%, there you go, of companies in the United States today that have a policy requiring workers to be working in the office at least some of the time. And I want to pull your attention to that 26% over there, because that 26% represents companies that have allowed their employees to choose whether to be working from home or to be working in the office or the company workplace. Because if you throw in that 26% in there, that's a whopping 93% of companies in the United States today that have a policy involving the need for workers to be working in the office, at least some of the time. Why am I so certain about that 26% of employees' choice and that they probably are also wanting to spend time in the office? This is the Gallup report. Now what the Gallup report does is it looks at employees' preferences in this hybrid environment, what they prefer. And what we find is that the most preferred schedule is that workers are wanting to work in the office 2 to 3 days a week. In fact, the most engaged workers are working in the office closer to 3 days per week. Clearly, the need for an office is not going anywhere. But while the need for an office hasn't changed, what the hybrid environment is changing is how people use the office. And that's why, in order to be successful, hybrid strategies need to include the transformation of a workplace. You know, one of the things that I love about this hybrid environment is that it really is changing the ways that we work. Haven't you noticed that? It's changing the ways we're working. And what I love the most is that companies are starting to acknowledge this. Company leaders are realizing, hey, maybe we need to start understanding or redefining how people work in an organization. It sounds like I'm tap dancing. Whoa, isn't that awesome? I'm tap dancing without even moving, guys. I hope you can still hear me though. I hope it's not too distracting. And so the company leaders that are starting to redefine how people work, it's great because great new policies are being written as a result. New training programs are being developed, which is helping managers lead more effectively in this hybrid environment. New recruitment strategies are being deployed, which is increasing workforce diversity. All of these things are really great things from a policy and HR perspective. But hybrid strategies cannot rely on policy and HR alone to be successful. Especially when the vast majority of policies out there today, what did we say, 93%? When 93% of policies out there today involve the need for workers to be working in the office. That's why as company leaders are redefining how people work, it is so important that they do this alongside redefining how this new way of working is supported in the physical work environment. Why is that so important? Let's go back to the data. This is from the Genzer Research Institute. This is one of my favorite pieces of research. And what I love about this is the Genzer Research Institute took a look at companies all around the world that have a hybrid strategy. And they compared companies that have a hybrid strategy and transform their workplaces as part of their strategy against companies that have a hybrid strategy but did nothing to their workplaces, not make any changes. So they compared. Now these transformed workplaces, the Research Institute referred to them as high-performing workplaces versus those that didn't get transformed were low-performing workplaces. And these high-performing workplaces, they found, contained deliberately made decisions around two aspects: space effectiveness and functionality, and the overall workplace experience. The impact that these high-performing workplaces have on the individual worker, on teams, and on the organization itself is staggering. If hybrid strategies are being deployed everywhere, and the common goal of these strategies is to empower people and the organization, then it would be incomplete to drive these strategies through policy and HR alone. Because regardless of what the policy is, data shows that people need the office, teams need the office, organizations need the office, and the office is no longer what it used to be. It too is transforming in this hybrid environment. And that's why, in order to be successful, hybrid strategies need to include the transformation of a workplace. And yet, when we look at who is at the table today driving the decisions on hybrid strategies, who do we find? We find HR, whose objectives within a hybrid environment is to empower people and the organization through creating and driving policy, recruitment programs, training, leadership development, and the impact on compensation and benefits. We also have corporate IT. Now, corporate IT's objectives within the hybrid environment is to make sure that we have the right hardware and software tools in place to maintain organizational success in this environment. Many times, we also have legal. Now, legal's lookout, among other things, is to protect the company from potential liabilities of remote work. And then, of course, you have corporate finance. Now, corporate finance looks at the impact of hybrid on both the individual worker from a tax and payroll perspective, as well as on the organization itself, in particular with its eye on ROI, cash flow, and the bottom line in this environment. Where are the folks whose expertise is on workplace and on empowering people and the organization through creating and driving strategies in the physical work environment? And just so we're clear, let's talk about all the different areas of a physical work environment that these strategies involve, because it starts with a workplace strategy and making sure there are short-term and long-term strategies that align with the hybrid strategy. Decisions on whether to renew, reduce, or terminate office leases, and then create an appropriate new real estate strategy. Decisions on interior design, architecture, architecture, space planning to improve space effectiveness and functionality. Managing the project build-up of these spaces, which many of us know, including Gary, what a difficult task that is. Decisions on effectively and efficiently maintaining, managing, and operating the space, which many of you know is evolving in this new environment. And speaking of evolving in this new environment, safety and security folks can also vouch that even safety and security measures are also evolving. Decisions on services in the workplace that are specifically selected to improve overall workplace experience. Decisions on technologies in the workplace to make sure that there's a seamless digital experience. Physical aspects and attributes that supports diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in ways that only a physical space can. And taking deliberate steps to make sure that the workplace strategy benefits rather than harms our planet. That's a lot. Now, who among these corporate departments have the skills, competencies, vision, or even understanding of all these different workplace functions in order to drive the hybrid strategies in the physical work environment? The same environment, mind you, that the vast majority of policies out there today rely on for their success. These are unprecedented times. And the need for an extraordinary leader in our industry is clear. So what are we going to do about it? Well, I'll tell you what we are not going to do about it. What we're not going to do about it is wait for company leaders to create the role of a chief workplace officer for us before we start to actively pursue it. Because the need is clear and the need is now. So here's what we can do to start paving the way towards the role of a chief workplace officer today. Two things. We need to start by knowing what the workplace industry is and what the different functions are that make up our industry. So that, two, we can work to unify these functions in our organization and work together to create workplace experiences that supports your hybrid environment. That's a mouthful. So let's start with the first one first. We need to start by knowing what the workplace industry is and what the different functions are that make up our industry. I mean, we can't really talk about a chief workplace officer if we don't know what workplace is to begin with, right? We might as well start with that one. Well, workplace experience is the experience that workers have in their physical work environment. And it includes all the different aspects of a physical work environment that actually are scientifically proven to positively impact an employee's ability to thrive in many different ways. Tap dancing is not among them, though. And so it includes everything from the size of the space, not tap dancing, not singing, but the size of the space, the location of the space, the design elements in the space, the biophilic elements, lighting, temperature, technology, food and beverage, events, activities, etc. It's all the different aspects in a physical work environment that impacts an employee's ability to thrive. Therefore, a workplace experience is driven by all the different workplace functions whose objectives, goals, strategies, and measures of success are all focused on the physical work environment. And they include workplace strategy, corporate real estate, interior design, project management, facility management, safety and security, workplace services, workplace technology, DEIB or diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in the physical space, and workplace sustainability. All of these corporate functions share the same objectives, goals, strategies, and measures of success that are all focused on the physical work environment. This alone sets them apart from any other corporate function in any organization, in any industry. And each of their processes, not only involves, but depends on the other workplace functions in order to be successful. That's why it makes sense that all these workplace functions work together in their own independent corporate department. Not be split up across multiple departments in an organization, or work mostly together but under a department that has an entirely different set of objectives, goals, strategies, and measures of success, but work together interconnectedly so that they can seamlessly rely on one another to achieve unified success. I mean, if you think about it, having all these different corporate functions, having all of these workplace functions in the same department is not only necessary, it's kind of just good old common sense. I mean, you don't have accounts payable in a separate department from accounts receivable just because they have different activities, or employee training in a separate department from employee compensation and benefits. Because even with different activities, functions that share the same overall objectives, goals, strategies, and measures of success, or OGSM, belong in the same unified department so they can deliver the same unified results. And just like any other corporate department, the workplace department calls for its own leader. Now let's pause for a minute here, and let's talk a little bit about what a chief workplace officer even is. I mean, if it doesn't exist everywhere, what does a chief workplace officer even look like? Well, why don't we take a look at the C-suite and see for some inspiration, why don't we? A chief HR officer or chief people officer normally rises from the ranks. So they normally have a very clear idea of all the different activities that go on within HR. Many of them also have an undergraduate and postgraduate degree in human resource management. So they have a very clear understanding of all the different functions within HR. What each of the functions do, what their processes and milestones are, what their measures of success are, and how they all work together so that they can create an OGSM, or objectives, goals, strategies, and measures of success across all these different functions, and successfully lead them all towards achieving a common goal. In the same way, a chief finance officer also normally rises from the ranks. And they also normally, or many times, have an undergraduate and postgraduate degree majoring in finance. So they also have a very clear understanding of all the different functions within finance, what each of the functions do, what their processes and milestones are, what their measures of success are, and how they all work together so that they can create an OGSM across all these different functions and successfully lead them all towards achieving a common goal. Well, in the same way, a chief workplace officer would also need to have a very clear understanding of all the different workplace functions. What each of the functions are, what they do, what the processes and milestones are, how you measure them for success, and how they work together, so that they too can create an OGSM across all the different functions and successfully lead them all towards achieving a common goal. The difference, however, is that unlike finance and HR, the workplace industry is made up of at least 10 different workplace functions, each of which has its own certifications, designations, credentials, undergraduate degrees, postgraduate degrees, and in some instances, board-certified licenses. And while many of us in the workplace industry, like many of us in this room today, wear multiple hats, and we have a maybe general idea of 2 or 3 or 4 of the different workplace functions in addition to our own, a chief workplace officer would need to have a clear understanding of all the different workplace functions. What all of them do, what their processes are, what their milestones are, how they are measured for success, and how they all work together, so that they can seamlessly use all those superpowers and guide and lead them all towards achieving a common goal. Today, this is our biggest challenge. Because in most organizations, these workplace functions are working in silos from one another. So we got a little bit of work to do. But that's okay. Because the one thing we're not going to do is wait for company leaders to create the role of a chief workplace officer for us before we start to actively pursue it. And here's the thing. You already have a head start. You are already among the only professionals in your company that have an understanding of the physical work environment. So you are in the best position to start leading the way. And there are things that you can do today to start paving the way towards the role of a chief workplace officer, regardless of what level you're in or how your workplace functions are organized in your company. As we said, two things. We need to start by knowing what the workplace industry is and what the different functions are that make up our industry, so that, two, we can work to unify these functions in your organization and work together to create workplace experiences that supports your hybrid environment. So what's left to do? Educate yourself. Learn what each of the workplace functions' superpowers are. Learn how each function, including your own, depends on the other functions to achieve success. Learn their language so that you can communicate with them effectively. And then use this knowledge to proactively reach out to the different workplace functions in your organization, even if we sit in separate departments or exist outside of your company. Once you have an understanding of their processes, and you know how your process fits into their process, and their process fits into yours, then you will have the confidence and the language with which to reach out to these different workplace functions and work together, collaborate, brainstorm ways to use all your superpowers together to create workplace experiences that are impactful and supports your hybrid environment. And lastly, leverage each of their critical measures of success to influence leadership. Each of these workplace functions have their own measures of success that are critical to an organization. Facility management does, corporate real estate does, safety and security does, workplace technology does. But these measures of success are much more impactful when you pull them all together and you use all of them to influence leadership, because they can establish the value that only workplace functions can deliver in any organization. And remember, regardless of what the hybrid strategy is, two important facts remain true. The need for an office or a company workplace is not going anywhere. And in order to be successful, hybrid strategies need to include the transformation of a workplace. So they need you. These are unprecedented times. And the need for an extraordinary leader in our industry is clear, and it is now. And while chief workplace officers may not exist everywhere yet today, there is nothing that can stop you from being the first. Thank you. Because I wanted you all to have my contact information. Clearly, I am very passionate about this topic. This is my work. This is my life's work. My life's work is dedicated to two things: establishing the value of a workplace experience in organizations around the world, and empowering workplace professionals to become leaders in our industry. That is my life's work. And by golly, I'm going to do it. But this is my, I will open this up to questions, but if you have questions you think about later on, which always happens, please reach out to me. If you have ideas, concerns, please reach out to me. If you have reach out to me. If you want me to talk to your associations, reach out to me. If you have concerns, if you are inspired by what I do, partner with me. It takes a friggin' village to get this done, but by golly, there is a need for this. So I wanted to make sure you have my contact information. That is my website, www.workplaceexperience.net. It's experience spelled with an X, workplaceexperience.net. It talks about all of the things that I do towards my effort, towards my goals. And that QR code, if you zap it, will lead you to the Workplace Experience training program. Now, I created this training program last year and I launched it before World Workplace, and I did that on purpose because I knew that I was going to be standing on stage in front of all these different workplace professionals and proclaim to everybody, you have to educate yourself, understand what the function superpowers are, what each of the functions do, etc. But I'm a workplace professional myself, and I know there's no school that teaches this. So I didn't want to stand up there and proclaim that to workplace professionals and then leave you hanging. So that's why I created the Workplace Experience Training Program. It is it's fully online. There are 12 modules. 10 of those modules are really just each of the workplace functions. And he talks about what they are, the basics. What is facility management? What is workplace services? What is workplace technology? What does it do? What its processes, milestones are, and how they all work together. So that my goal and my hope is that workplace functions can then take this and become leaders in our industry. So this training program is my second milestone. I consider that my second milestone. My first milestone toward my efforts is I wrote a book in 2019 called Workplace Experience. My second milestone is this. And my third milestone I'm working on today, I'm working on a program that will be geared towards leaders. So CFOs, CEOs, and Chief People Officers, so that I can help convince them of the importance of a workplace experience and why they need workplace professionals to be leaders. So I'm working on that this year, and I hope to launch that by next year. Again, this is my life's work, so if you have any feedback, any comments, I will take anything. Elbows, I will take anything. So again, thank you very much. If you have any questions,